There's Lori from San Francisco, of course. Christina asked, we are muted, right? Yeah, you're muted. Don't worry about it. Niagara on the Lake, Canada. Peekskill in the house.
Yay, Peekskill.
Where's Peekskill? I don't even know.
It's in Westchester.
Oh, okay. So it's your neighbor.
It's a county. Yeah, okay. Westchester is a county, and there's lots of towns like Yonkers and Peekskill and Scarsdale in Westchester.
Nice. Larkspur, California, Deborah. Julie Anderson from Oregon. Sutter Creek, California, Dave. Santa Fe, Lorinda. Denise from SF. I don't know if that's Santa Fe or San Francisco, but I'm assuming it's San Francisco. Oceanside. Sean Michael, how are you tonight? It's good to see everybody. So, Karen, are you ready to get started and talk about resist?
I just want to say, at times I'm going to switch my camera, and there might be a slight delay. So just pray to the tech gods that all this goes well, because it's been a learning curve. I really appreciate you, Jen, for giving me this opportunity. I'm so excited about it, and I've really cooked up something fun, I think. And I hope I unleash everybody's creative juices.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to pop off, you guys. And like Karen said, I'll be back at the end, but like Karen said, when she switches camera, there will be, I think yesterday when we practiced, there was probably a good 15-second delay, wasn't there?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. So your screen will just turn black as she's switching cameras, but it doesn't mean that anything's wrong. So she'll be back on in a minute. Okay, so I will see you guys later. I'm going to exit here. And have fun.
Thank you.
Have fun, Karen.
Thank you. So I'm going to present slides as well as speak. And what we're doing tonight is we're going to talk about a technique, gouache and ink resist. And I've got people of all levels in the workshop tonight. I am going to present these slides to you as a download later, so don't worry, just watch and enjoy. I'm interested in this technique again. I used it in the 80s and the 90s for this one piece that you can see. And I was wondering about why it's interesting me now to go back to it. And I think it's because I'm very interested in figure ground relationships. And Jen Wiggs knows, she's an expert with this, and she knows that I've been exploring this. I'm interested in the sense of light when there is very different values coming together. And I'm interested in process. I've always been interested in process. Like Jen was reading from my bio, I studied etching. I've been interested in photography and did a lot of photography. Anything that involves a step-by-step process often makes me very excited. I'm interested in the unpredictability of how the image will emerge from this process. So that is why I'm into it now. And I did it quite a while ago, 30 years ago. It's hard to believe. And now I want to change a little bit, not to take it exactly where it was before, but to go into a new place with it. So we'll get into that. So next slide. And I just spoke a little bit of why I'm doing this. I think it's really important to, when you do a new technique, to figure out how it fits with your center. There's a center, for me anyway, of why I want to create something. And I try to figure out what it is that is intriguing me. So like I said, you see the clay on the left and the light, the effect of light, and the grid. So I've been working with grids in some of my paintings also. Then there's Arthur Dove, which is the next image in the center. That is also intriguing to me, the limited palette and the strong values and the big shapes. The smaller image is of David Parks, and I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know who this artist was until my friend Jen Wiggs introduced me to him a month ago. And he is quite an artist and made me feel like I just loved his work. I try to use the best craftsmanship I can with my materials. So I'm going to be now going to my camera and I'm talking about the materials. And I'm going to change my camera. And this is where we switch a little bit. All right. So I was talking about substrates. Here they are, different kinds of substrates. I'm using some small canvases because this is part of my under the allowable limit. This is a 4x4. This is a plywood panel. And I'm even experimenting with everybody's favorite, which is a hardwood panel. And what I'm using is first to seal those surfaces, I'm using GAC 100 to prevent this. Support induced discoloration, SID. Sounds awful, right? Well, if you don't seal your surface, the paint could discolor over time. And as a painter, that means something to me because I want a painting to last at least my lifetime. And if somebody buys it, you know, they're spending a couple $100 at least, and I want that product to be as good a product as I can produce. So it means something to me to seal a piece of wood to make sure that support-induced discoloration doesn't happen. Then, on that kind of support, I would use something called absorbent ground. And I think I have the actual, here it is. This is a product by Golden. And it's just like gesso, but it creates an absorbent ground, which would mean that the gouache would soak into it the way it would with paper. At least that's my theory. So I'm still experimenting with this. So what kind of paint am I using? I'm using gouache. And gouache is a very fine quality, water-based paint that is water soluble. It's not like acrylic. It's not shiny, it's matte. And it will turn back into a liquid when water hits it. It's not like acrylic that way. There is gouache that is a acrylic polymer, and this is called Jen Wiggs knows. But when this dries, it's a matte color and it is not water soluble. So you could theoretically use it for your white areas. Here's another kind of a gouache. This is marabou gouache, and it looks like watercolor, except it's not transparent. It's going to be opaque. Gouache is opaque. It's wonderful quality. You don't want to take away that wonderful quality that it has. So let me show you basically, here, let me do this. Here's a substrate of a panel, and I'm going to take some of this absorbent ground. And here's a tip. Do you ever get any of these plastic credit cards? And you can just spread this on here. I think with the absorbent ground, the more the merrier, right? And there's textures that happen, so that might all become part of the interest of the panel.
Someone asked if you could use gesso to seal the panel.
I would use the GAC first and then use gesso, because I don't think the gesso is actually formulated to prevent the dreaded SID, S-I-D. Acrylic gouache is the material that Jen Wiggs has used quite a bit. So this is basically how you prepare your substrate, and then you would let this dry, okay? So we're going to move right along. Now what I've done is I've mixed up some of this gouache here in little containers so that I have quite a bit of color. But I'm going to show you how I mix this up, because you want the gouache to be thick. You do not want it to be thin. So I am going to work on a little sketch here. This is one of my little tiny paintings. I'm going to work with this. And the one color I want that I don't have right now is a peachy, beautiful, sort of a light peachy color. And I'm going to start with more white. Here's some orange. This was dried. It was in the tube. It was like totally unusable. And I just reconstituted it. Because these are really fine art materials. They're pretty expensive and I don't want to waste them. So I think this tube of gouache was dried for at least a year or more. Many more years probably. I'm just going to take a little of that and put it right into here. That's a really sweet color. I don't want it that sweet. So I'll probably put a little bit of blue in there, or a little green, right? The complement. And that'll be enough to really make it. Too much, folks. So this is where it gets fun. And a little more white. I'm always running out of white. I almost don't have enough. Okay. So I'm not going to try to finish this, obviously, but I've got all my colors here. I made a little palette. I made a little palette to see what might be my colors. And let's see this. Yeah, here we go. This is better. Not too sweet, right? I have adult taste. Too sweet is too sweet. And there's that color that I want. That was my missing color, because I like this. So here we go. Let's see what happens. I'm going to use bigger brushes. My brushes, it can be any kind of brush. I think it might be interesting to use big, thick brushes, or Japanese brushes, or flat brushes. And let's see. Let's go. This is nice and thick because I got it prepared already. We'll turn this way. Let's see. This is so much fun, right? I like the texture.
Someone asked the kind of gouache that you use, the brand.
I'm using different brands. This is Graham and Company, and I've used Winsor Newton. Those are the two brands I've used. And then, like I said, this Marabou, but I don't really recommend this unless you're going to go out and paint in plein air and you want it easier on yourself, because this isn't going to get really thick and creamy. You've got to have a certain amount of thickness for this whole process to work. So you can see the difference, how I'm working from the way I used to paint. I've gotten much more expressionistic. I'm still interested in figurative work, but I'm not as tied to it as I used to be. But I always get inspired by the natural world. And so here's a demo, right? And then I can go into this and put some more. Here I'm using a Japanese brush. Here's my time. Use a Japanese brush. Holbein, artist gouache, remains water soluble. Yes, it's another brand. I'll have to try it. So I'm just playing around, because this is going to be the base really for another painting. I can work over this. So I don't have to be afraid of having everything perfect. Wow, that's a very cool yellow. And here's a warmer yellow. Color theory is so interesting. I've seen some really interesting things happening with different colors.
Okay. Did you mix something with the gouache?
Water? Just water. Okay, so there you go. I think you get the idea. I'm not going to finish this, but I've just started something. Okay. Here's another painting. And this is the next step. I've got two pieces here. Here's something more realistic that I painted. And let's see. Here's another piece that I've partially flooded. This is where we get really messy. Let me cover this up. I'm going to use the next material, which is super black India ink. And oh, I forgot to mention, you can also use as a palette if you want things like this or things like this, you know, with the little wells. But I think having your colors pre-mixed is a very good way to work, because it makes you think about your palette and sort of get organized. And then, you know, you can always use this, but the way I'm working, I like to have everything kind of ready so I don't have to mix it up, and I can be more spontaneous. So we are going to take this India ink and I'm going to wet my brush. Always wet your brush before you put it into something that's not water soluble, because you don't want the material to get into the ferrule and ruin your brush or make it very difficult to rinse. So here I'm wetting my brush. And let's do this. India ink. This is fun. It's gone. All your hard work covered up. And since it's water soluble, if you go over it too many times, you're going to disturb that layer. And I'm not that concerned with it being perfectly covered. That's just not the way I am. Like if you ask me to paint a wall, I'll paint the wall differently than you paint the wall. Some people will be completely careful about every spot, but I'm sloppy. I like sloppy. Can't help it. And here I'm going to cover this up. Sometimes you can pour it on. Why not? Just go for it. Don't wear your good clothes, right? And here we are. Now, if you were impatient, I guess you could take a hair dryer and you could dry it, but it's nice just to have a couple of projects going. Put this aside, let it dry. And now for the magic part. Here are some pieces that I've had already dried. And let's see what happens. I'm going to use a couple of different kinds of ways of getting the ink off. Usually I would take this to a dry sink in my basement, but my basement is in the house and my studio is not in the house. It's in a separate building and I don't have running water in here. So I'm going to use this tub and we're going to see how this works. Now, I like using warm water, but we don't have any warm water. So I have the water in some squeeze bottles. I always label everything because when you start putting things, if you don't label it, you'll be sorry. I'm going to put on some gloves because I don't want to ruin my manicure. Oh, dry time? I would say at least a day. Brand of India ink. This is Speed Ball. But you could use a different kind. I mean, I think there's different brands of India ink. Let's see. Do I have any here? I don't know whether I have any here. I think I have some different brands, but this came in a big bottle and I thought I'd need it. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's start with one of these little panels. All right. And let's see, take the top off. This is where I want you to help me, Mary, if you don't mind.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Yeah, just come over here and just do that. No. Just spray.
Oh, while you're doing.
Yeah. I'm using a toothbrush. Just keep spraying. Yep. More. Don't be generous. Pretend it's a sink. More, please. Yeah. That's it. I'm a dental hygienist. This is like how to use the toothbrush, right? More. Quick. Yeah. Just pour it. Okay. We got more. A little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah. More, please. Yeah. Okay. See where you're going to have to put more water. I've got another bottle of water there. Okay. You have some control over this. Now, I think what I can tell already is that the watercolor paper is going to work better than this substrate. That's what I know already. I can tell. So let's go for that. Here's watercolor
Here,
paper.
I'm gonna take this off so that I can get closer because they weren't able to see that very well.
Okay.
All right. So you can get a better look at what's going on here.
You can also use your hands. Using your fingers is very nice. Let your inner child come out to play. Playing with the paint with your hands is highly recommended. So you can see, it's an amazing thing. Part of what you put down is there, and a lot of what you didn't expect is there. I need more water. Okay.
Would it work with acrylic?
No, it's not going to work with acrylics. Why? Why won't it? What would the problem be with acrylics? Anybody know? Because acrylics are not water soluble. So when you put the ink on top of the acrylic and then you spray the ink over it, I mean the water over it, nothing's going to happen.
And you can leave some of it in the ink on there, right? If you leave a lot of it.
Yes.
Take off as much as you want.
You can decide. You can decide how much of this you want to remove. You have some control over this. But you can see, I think that the watercolor paper really is working better, especially if you were going to make this like a final painting. You see? Oops, gotta get more water.
You have to do this at a certain speed, like a.
Well, I think if you, I don't know if you have to do it at a certain speed. I like to do it quickly.
You're asking the weight of this paper.
This is 140-pound paper. Yes, the black that we see is the ink that has seeped into the paper where the gouache wasn't. Okay? So wherever you see pure black on the paper, that's where I left a blank area, a white area. And where you see white, I put a white gouache there. That is the one place where you could use the acrylic gouache, the Aquila. You could use that there and make a white patch. So there's my painting. Is it possible that you overdo the water and it washes all the gouache away? No, because the pigment in the gouache is going to stain the paper. So for instance, thank you. If you keep scrubbing this area, let's water.
Yeah, there's my water here.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I took more of the gouache that remained there, but it stained the paper. This is not pure white. Even though it looks really white, it's not as white as this. This is where I put the, and I would probably stop. if I like the color, I mean, I'm making decisions here as to what is going to stay and what is going to be removed.
Someone asked about sandpaper, using sandpaper.
I think there's so many ways you can experiment with this. And I know you guys are really creative and you guys are going to take this and do some incredible stuff with it. Okay? There you go. What do you think? Isn't it nice? It's fun. And this is different from the way I used to paint. Here, Mary, you can show.
Mm-hmm.
There's a more realistic painting done many moons ago. And you can see how I did it. Then it was sort of, I guess, derivative of a Van Gogh. But now I'm more interested in these larger shapes. And I'm thinking even working with different kind of media on top of this. This is a beginning for me. A way into, a path into abstraction, right, Jen? It's a path into abstraction. Okay.
Someone had asked a question. Hold on. If you scroll up, you can click on, and I'll get you more water. Hold on.
Okay. What's the question? When you are scrubbing, it blends color. Can that be left as it is? Why not? I think that all of these things can be experimented with. So you coated the watercolor paper before applying the gouache. No, I didn't coat the watercolor paper, but I did coat the substrate. I coated the hardwood panels, and I haven't yet tried this. So this is where I'm experimenting. I put the GAC 100 on this because it's a piece of wood, and then I put the absorbent ground on this to make it more like a watercolor, more like a paper surface. And then I painted on this. So
These are cool.
you guys are getting so many ideas, and you're giving me ideas. It's really awesome. So now I wanted to show you something really exciting. I'm going back to the slides now. There. This is some, you'll get these slides if you like. And here's some of the process. So I'll give you this, okay? And let's see. Here's the last slide. What could this technique be used for? So I've been thinking a lot about this, and this piece is by Jen Wiggs. Some of you know her. She's an amazing artist. And what she does with her pieces is she cuts them up and she makes an abstract composition from them. And I'm very interested in that. I love this piece. This was something I found today, and I asked her permission. She said I could use it. She cuts it up and she makes a collage out of it. So this. So here's an example of another piece. This can be used to make other pieces. So I'm partitioning right now. This is I don't consider this whole thing to be interesting, but when I start to partition it, I see things that I might want to bring out. I can do stuff with this. Interesting composition. The colors are remarkable, and it's not something that I could do without doing a process. And that is, I think, all I have. I would use this for color studies. And I've just really enjoyed this this experience of doing the workshop. I hope you do. And thank you so much. I'm about done. A little bit early. Any more questions? I'm going to switch my camera, I think. Here it comes, Jen.
I loved this. I know everybody else did too. It was so awesome. What
Wasn't
a
it
cool
fun?
thing.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I did it a long time ago, and it's so much fun to go back to it because I'm a different kind of artist now. In a lot of ways, we all change from year to year, and to come back to something after 20 years, 30 years that you kind of had a control over, and now you're like experimenting even more with it. It's a lot of fun.
Karen, this was so awesome. I loved it.
Thank you.
I'm inspired and I don't even make art.
But
So
don't
I bet everybody else is super inspired.
Well, you know, when I watch people paint, I just get really excited. It's like art porn for me, actually. I'm admitting it.
Yeah. So, you guys, you know, we're going to have this Artist Alliance members. This will be in the community tomorrow afternoon, you know, early evening kind of thing. And Karen, did you want me to pass out your beautiful slides there, turn them into a PDF for you, or
Canva creation, yes. That's why I did it.
it's really great.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I can't wait to see other people do their thing for the Artists Alliance community. It's a
Yeah,
great
me
idea.
too. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
I loved it. Okay, you guys, thanks so much, Karen. I will see you around. Send me an email if you need something. And you guys will see you online. Stay safe. Be good. We're going to check out here.
Tommy.
Everybody be well.